have so many thoughts on this that I would probably get kicked off of YouTube for. Hey everyone, my name is Mandy. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about 5 objections to homeschooling, the most popular 5 ones. And I really picked these from a lot of comments about homeschooling that I have read recently, you know, on news articles and things like that. I picked the most common 5 objections that you're going to hear. This is going to be so hard for me not to be sarcastic because I think it's my natural inclination to be really sarcastic about this type of stuff, and I'm just naturally that way. The Lord is working on me, okay? Just, if I seem a little sarcastic, I'm going to try not to go there. Okay, so we're going to jump into this. Make sure that you hit the like button and the subscribe if you haven't already, and leave me a comment down below with the silliest reason or objection that you have heard to homeschooling. I'd love to read these. So first, why are so many people against homeschooling? I have come to realize that there's 2 big reasons why people have objections to homeschooling. And I come into contact with these all the time, and it falls into one of these 2 categories. Most of the time, people are against homeschooling or speak out against homeschooling because they don't understand homeschooling. And a lot of this stems from the misunderstanding of what homeschooling actually is and of the laws that homeschoolers have to follow. So that's a big one, okay? The other reason is because it usually has something to do with emotions. And for every person, those kind of emotions are going to be different. But I have found that a lot of times when somebody comes into contact with a homeschooler, it either makes them feel bad or guilty because they didn't homeschool their children, or they feel like you are in a way judging them because they don't homeschool their kids. So they automatically assume, even if you don't, which most of the time you probably don't, they probably assume that you are judging them for public schooling their kids. So they go on the defense and they start defending public school and putting down homeschool. And I usually run into one of those 2 people every single time. Keep that in mind when you see people really putting down homeschooling or putting you down for homeschooling, that it's probably stemming from one of those 2 things. But let's go over the 5 most common objections to homeschooling and why they're bogus. So first one is only teachers should be teaching, or / you are not qualified to be a teacher. This one is so bogus. I know. I am a former teacher. I went through college. I went through all the classes to become a teacher. I taught in the classroom for almost a decade. I know what it takes to be a teacher. I did it. I know all the ins and outs. But here's the thing. To be a homeschooling teacher, you don't need any of that. All you need is just what the state requires of you, and most of the time, most states only require a high school diploma. Now, people will come at you and say, but that doesn't mean that you're qualified to teach. You didn't go to college for that. So I have a couple thoughts on this. First, homeschooling curriculum is made for people who have not taught in a classroom, who have not gone through the internships in a classroom. And it's much different than teaching in a classroom. And this is a former teacher telling you this. It's not anything like teaching in a classroom. Just because you can teach in a classroom doesn't mean anything when it comes to homeschooling, especially when you're homeschooling your own children. It's totally different. One, the curriculum is actually designed to take you through this and hold your hand. It's way easier. And not only that, but some curriculum like Abeka will actually give you the words to say. Like, you don't even have to make it up. Abeka will actually bold the words for you to say while you're teaching the lesson. I mean, we're talking like total hand holding here. You don't need all of that. And 2, if your own public school education didn't prepare you to teach the same thing to somebody else, why would you put your kids back in that system anyway? Are you saying that your public school education wasn't good enough to prepare you to teach the same material that you were taught to somebody else? Because that doesn't say a whole lot for public education. I'm just saying. Reason number 2, homeschoolers are sheltered. You're dang right I shelter my kids. Have y'all seen what they are teaching in those public schools? You are dang right I am sheltering my children from that. Sorry, no. I have so many thoughts on this that I would probably get kicked off of YouTube for, so I'm gonna keep those to myself. However, if y'all pay attention, like I do, because I'm in teacher groups still, I have that insider information. Go read some of this material. Just spend 5 or 10 minutes looking at some of this material and you would be appalled if you haven't actually seen this stuff already. I feel like I am able to come at it objectively, but at the same time, I am a Christian. So I'm looking at it from a Christian worldview, and there's no way I would want my kids learning some of this stuff. So back to the whole, the kids are sheltered thing. It's not even that my kids are sheltered. I think when people say homeschoolers are sheltered, they assume, because there's a lot of assuming going on in the homeschooling community, from the public at least, people assume that my kids never leave the house. And that is hilarious. I couldn't stand being in these 4 walls for that long, let alone my kids. So no, we are involved in things in the community. We are involved in things in church. My kids are involved in sports. I mean, give me a break. My kids are not sheltered. I think it's really silly to paint all homeschoolers the same just because you saw a family that you didn't like on TV who homeschooled. Number 3, my favorite one, religious indoctrination. You know, and this one is my absolute favorite because these people fail to realize that all education is indoctrination. And I have a video on this, I will put it up here for you, called There Is No Neutral Education. There is no neutral education, none whatsoever, because you only have 2 options in the world of education. You have secular humanism and you have Christianity. There is nothing out there that does not fall into one of those 2 realms. Atheism, secular humanism. It does not matter what other worldview it is. If it is not Christian, it falls into that secular humanism, or it could even be called statism. Go check out that video. There's more information on that in there. But my point here is all education is indoctrination. So your kids are going to be indoctrinated. The question is, what will they be indoctrinated into? Will it be Christianity or secular humanism? 4, kids don't learn basic skills. Again, that's absolutely laughable. Most people, when they meet my kids, have no idea they're even homeschooled until the question of, oh, where do you go to school, comes up. Just like it did yesterday when I took my kids to a brand new dentist out in town. And actually, she thought it was pretty cool. And I find that most people feel that way now that they've had to have a taste of homeschooling after the pandemic. I feel like that whole mess kind of gave people a taste of reality of what homeschooling parents do. Not fully, of course, because they weren't homeschooling. They were doing government school at home and Zoom schooling. That's not really homeschooling. But I do feel like there is a little bit more respect for the homeschooling crowd. Have y'all experienced that? Let me know down in the comments. But I feel like I do get a little bit more respect from people when they find out that we've been homeschooling, you know, especially my youngest from the beginning. We're like the OGers out here. But it's almost like they're surprised that my kids are articulate, which I find so funny because it's like, what did you expect? Like my kids to not have basic social skills or not be able to talk to people or, you know, be able to tell you what the date on the calendar is? Sometimes I wonder like what these people actually think homeschooling is. And honestly, sometimes their responses are really insulting, but a lot of times I just end up laughing about it because it really just comes down to ignorance. And not only ignorance of what homeschooling is, like I mentioned at the beginning, but ignorance of the law. And a lot of states, people don't realize, a lot of states, they have laws that we have to follow as homeschooling parents. Like we have to test our kids every single year. A lot of states do. My state does. Not every state does, but a lot of states require some kind of standardized test that our kids have to take. and we have to keep those on file, and we are required to show those documents if so need be. You know, and every state's different with that, so that might not be your state, but that's how my state operates. You know, I have records for every single year, and I have to put into the system when they took that test. So it's not like my kids don't know basic math. And here's the other thing. They don't realize either that one of the biggest reasons why people homeschool is because homeschoolers actually test better. Like, they are better educated, and the numbers don't lie. You can go look at one of my SAT videos that I did recently on who actually scores higher, who is better educated. Every single time, and it's been this way for decades, it's the homeschoolers. The homeschoolers get a better education, they score better, they have better test scores. You can go check it out. There is a reason why. There's many reasons why, but just ignore it because those people are ignorant. And when I say ignorant, I'm not meaning stupid. I'm meaning that they just don't know. They really don't know. Number 5, do I really need to say it? Because y'all know it's coming. And I left this one for last because I just absolutely hate this argument. I do. I'm so sick of talking about it, but I feel like it's always that thing, you know, it's always there. How will we ever socialize the children? Oh, give me a break. I've done a lot of videos on this. There's all kinds of ways to socialize your children. There is dozens of ways. There's co-ops, there's sports, there's music lessons, there's ballet, there's gymnastics, there's field trips, there's so many things that you can do. I don't even want to spend that much time on this because it's absolutely silly. And I have other videos on this. Google it. There's groups. And if there's not a group, start one. I mean, like us, almost our entire church is full of homeschooling families. And actually right now, I think all of our families are homeschooling. So my kids have plenty of friends who are homeschooled, and they have friends who are not homeschooled. There's kids in your neighborhood. That's socialization. The thing is people don't understand what socialization actually is. Socialization does not mean that a child has to be in a room full of 30 peers their exact same age. That is not socializing. That's one way to socialize, but that's not what socialization actually is. You're socializing when you're talking to somebody else. Any interaction with another person, no matter their age, is socializing. People have taken that word and they have just made it into something that is just a big, as they like to say on the news, a big nothing burger. That's what this is. So when people come at you with that one, just ignore it. Seriously, it's silly at this point. I'm tired of defending it. And honestly, I find that most people don't even ask about it. It's really the only people who ask about it are people online. And I just point them to some kind of resource or one of my videos or a blog post or something that I've written about socializing and the different ways that people in general socialize. I socialize, you socialize, everybody socializes. You know, there's all kinds of ways that people can do this. And it takes a little bit more effort because it's not like it's an automatic thing like public school is. But if you take a little bit of effort, your kids are going to be just fine. They're not going to be weird. Homeschooling doesn't make your kids weird. You know what makes your kids weird? Your kids. If your kids are weird, your kids are weird. Kids are weird. So homeschooling doesn't do that. And no matter how much socializing you do with the kids, they're going to end up the way they're going to end up. Now, are there extreme cases of things? Of course, there's extreme cases in everything. I don't think that you can really, you can say the same thing for public schoolers, you know? I mean, you really can. But people are going to be the way that they are. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that people tend to freak out about silly little issues like that, and they disregard the benefits of things like home education because of these silly things that they really didn't look into, but it's something that they heard somebody say once online. So keep that in mind with a lot of these. A lot of these are just totally unfounded things that is a lot of online scare tactics, and they're really just unfounded. All right, that is all I have for this video. I hope that this kind of gives you some things that you can come back with at people and really just get a conversation going. especially if you're facing any of these accusations from friends or family members, and that way you can kind of go and feel a little bit more confident about your decision and have some things to actually say back to them that will help them better understand homeschooling, home education in general, and maybe you change their mind. I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and of course, as always, happy homeschooling.